beneficiaries want to make sure that our good practice and our results can be disseminated Europe-wide, so that Europe, both in terms of the institutions but also member states and the cities across Europe, are well equipped and well prepared for the challenges ahead in terms of the next generation of structural fund programmes. And it's important to emphasise that we're in line with the Regions for Economic Change agenda and the priority of achieving sustainable urban development. It's also very much in line, our goals are in line with the policy context of Urbact 2. So Urbact 2, the operational programme, emphasised that economic growth is sustainable only when it's accompanied by measures designed to reduce policy, combat social exclusion, and address environmental problems. In other words, there is an interdependence between physical regeneration, social regeneration, economic development, and the ability for the city to be developed in a sustainable way. In practical terms, we're looking at ensuring synergy between all the interventions financed by the structural funds and the effectiveness and visibility of community interventions. We want to be able to make sure that community interventions are well profiled and well highlighted in terms of their contribution to successful urban regeneration. And paragraph 13 of the regulation for the European Community specifically states that the contribution of towns and cities, particularly medium-sized and small ones, to regional development is very important, and that more account should be taken of them when developing and delivering and designing new urban regeneration programmes. Last but certainly not least, it's about improving the effectiveness of sustainable integrated urban development policies with a view to ensuring that we can implement the Lisbon and Gothenburg strategies. And in terms of Lisbon, that vision, to remind you all, was for Europe and the European Union to become the most competitive and dynamic knowledge-based economy in the world, capable of sustainable economic growth. Gothenburg and the Gothenburg agenda added value to that by emphasising the fact that there's important that economic growth needs to be sustainable, and that there is a key environmental dimension to that process of social and economic regeneration. And our repair network focused on 4 of the key priorities which arose from the Sustainable Development Strategy for Europe, which came out of Gothenburg. And those 4 priorities are climate change and clean energy, sustainable transport, sustainable consumption, and social inclusion. So how did we respond to that as repair, and what were the challenges that we had to face up to? Well, the first one is the principle that no one is an island. In other words, that it's not good enough simply for a sole focus on specific sites. It's not good enough for site owners and local developers only to have a vision for their own site. It has to be seen in the context of the broader sustainable development of the surrounding city. Secondly, that actually those regeneration and military sites can catalyse that sustainable urban development. It is clear from the discussions that we've had that imaginative and innovative schemes to regenerate those military cities can actually enable the broader sustainable development of the surrounding urban area. And from our practical projects, we've been able to face up to the need to cross-fertilise innovative projects and those that are able in practical terms to further the cause of sustainability. And we've been able to highlight that good practice. But also, we were able to face up to the challenge of making a valuable contribution to European policy development. An analysis of how the sustainability principles are applied to former military sites can advance both EU policy and the effectiveness and efficiency of EU structural fund programmes. So our outputs, as per our contract with the Urbact Secretariat, were to develop 1 draft policy framework and recommendations, and 10 policy recommendations, 20 good practice examples, and 11 local action plans, which gave rise to 2 specific pilot regeneration actions in 2 of our partner areas. Now, the delivery of our repair network, as will be explained in more detail later, has been founded on 4 specific pillars which represent ways and means to enable greater sustainable development in the urban area. The first one is achieving the sustainable reuse of those heritage sites by maximising their energy efficiency, better waste management and greater use of renewable energies. The second one is looking at developing alternative site uses and techniques which best enable the long-term preservation of those military sites. The third pillar is about maximising access to those military sites by sustainable transport means. And last but certainly not least, it's about how the reuse of the sites can maximise the ability for local people to access jobs arising from those sites. Now I'm going to come back to what we are advocating as a network and how that maps onto those 4 pillars. So first of all, as I've mentioned earlier, we were advocating joined-up working between policy makers. That is crucial, and there needs to be a difference in the way we work to enable, in practical terms, that integrated sustainable development. As far as the 4 thematic pillars are concerned, that means incorporating sustainable energy policy into heritage site preservation plans, site regeneration and land use policies. There needs to be that dialogue between energy policy experts